continues our discussion of the OnSummarySectionRender event handler. So what we're doing over here is we're computing an HTML template that has placeholders in it, and you can see that the placeholders are all enclosed in curly parens over there. So s.total extension is a placeholder where we would like to insert this value that has been defined earlier on. So at this point, e.html section is a placeholder that looks like this, but the placeholders have not yet been replaced by their actual values. We then call the Alpha 5 function called evaluate string, which basically takes a string that contains these placeholders, where the placeholders are all enclosed in curly brackets, and replaces the placeholders with the actual value. So you can see now that the string contains placeholders, but when I execute this line, all of those placeholders now get replaced by their actual values. And now if we continue to run the code, basically there is our template, and it has the placeholders have been replaced. Now let's take a look at how we computed this page total, because remember, as I said earlier, this total here is the total not for the current page of records, but for all 113 records. But this total here is the current page. So as I scroll through the data here, basically you'll see now for the next page it's $831. So I'm going to go back to design mode and talk about how we actually computed the running total to compute the page total. So the first thing that we did was we went to the onBeforeExistingRows render, and you'll recall that in a previous video we discussed how we can use this event to inject HTML as the grid is being rendered. But we can also use this event to do calculations, and in particular what we're going to do is we're going to use this e.rtc object. RTC stands for runtime calculations, and you can use this object to store information that you want to pass from one event handler to the next event handler. So at the beginning of each page of data, we'd like to set e.rtc.pagetotal.extension to 0. Now this variable name is something that I just made up. I could have called it e.rtc.foo, or it's totally arbitrary. I just made up a variable name that I want to stick inside e.rtc so that I can pass it from one event handler to the next event handler. So before any rows are rendered, we set this running total to 0. Then in the onExistingRow render, which as you recall we discussed previously is used to inject HTML as the grid is being rendered. In this case we're not injecting any HTML, but we are taking the current value of the extension record for this row and adding it in to our variable, into our accumulator variable. And you can see here that e.rowData is described in the help here. It tells you that basically to get a value for a field in the current row, you use this syntax e.rowData.data and then the field name. So what we've done here is we've set that the value of this extension variable is equal to its existing value plus the value in the extension field for the current record. So this now is adding in the extension for the current record to the previous value, and so by the time I get to the OnSummarySectionRender, we've rendered all of the existing rows, and this value now has the page total for us over there. So we've used the onExistingRow_render and onBeforeExistingRow_render events here in a slightly different way than previously demonstrated. So let's pause here and pick it up in the next video.